Thanks, Jim. That was a very kind introduction, and somewhere out in the audience is the Give Lots of Money to Charities That Can Change the World Foundation. And I'd just like to draw attention to what Jim said and make a huge donation to us if you possibly can. So I'm holding up here my City Car Club car. I would never consider owning a car again. It's completely silly. And for 5 or 6 years I've been a happy car sharer, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm really here to talk about video communication, video conferencing, which is unbelievably mundane thing, and the long journey from the unbelievably mundane video conferencing to something I consider to be quite divine and fantastic. I'm trying not to be put off by 2 dear colleagues I walked here with who said that they don't believe in my thesis. I'm going to try and make you believe in my thesis and see how I get on. So the first thing I would say is I'm not a complete stranger to this field. I studied electronic media from 1992 when the great company Shell got my design company looking at using electronic media. And by 1995, 96, we were a hot shop, the design company I worked for, and we redesigned bt.com. By that time, I was a full-time researcher in what was then called new media, and overwhelmed by the potential of broadband, having seen an interactive television trial in Colchester. I set up the UK's first public access video conference bureau in 1996, and that morphed into a company called iNetwork, which I co-own, which is Europe's largest video conference booking service. And I also did my master's thesis on video conferencing, and I also took kind of a couple of years off to work half-time selling eye contact video telephones to corporations. So I have some experience of the field. And, well, video conferencing doesn't work, so we're always going to have to keep on flying, and video phones can't work. They were demonstrated in 1960. Nobody wants them, so we're going to have to keep driving, and that's the way it is. But wait. There is a place where video phones work perfectly, and they always have done for all of your lives, and you don't even know where they are. Does anyone know where they are? Where does the video phone work perfectly every day? TV news. Nobody's ever phoned up the TV company to say, I didn't enjoy the news because somebody was in the Tokyo studio, and frankly, it wasn't very good. It was all pixelated. With high bandwidth and eye contact, video telephony can work. Video conferencing is a kind of stupid idea that may never work, to be honest, but video telephony has a big future. I learned a lot of this from a chap called Eckhart Vincent, who built the company BSO Origin up from 4 people to 20,000 people. It's now called Atos Origin. And he reported his greenhouse gas emissions in tons of CO2 multiplied by a financial value in 1992, a true visionary. He told me that eye contact was absolutely critical for effective video communication. Now, I want you to notice that when, for those of you who've not done video conferencing, there's a camera on top of the screen. You can't ever look the other person in the eye. Frequently, it's set up so badly, you can't even notice. The heads are so tiny and distant around some far-off boardroom table. You don't even notice you haven't got eye contact. But if you ever got up close, you wouldn't have eye contact. Now, try having a conversation with somebody at a drinks party or something without eye contact. It's absolutely revolting. You feel physically sick. Okay, so there are technological problems to be overcome. Samsung and LG in Korea have translucent OLED screens. Eye contact video phones will come. But what I'm going to drive at is that there is enormous potential for us to be sitting on the very edge of an explosion of video communications and transport substitution. Skype is the beginning of that. For those of you who've seen Cisco telepresence, you'll know that video communication can work, but the key is to deploy the technology. Now, Cisco telepresence, and I hope the great company Cisco, which we love, will forgive me for saying this, but it costs a bob or two. Now, when my little design company got email in 1995 from AT&T, it cost us £5,000. A year later, it was free. Now, we're not going to see price falls like that, but mass deployment reduces cost. We can deploy a broadband infrastructure, and if we really apply ourselves 40 years after we went to the moon, we can make eye contact video phones. 1 million, 10 million, 100 million, a billion. For those of you who've heard of Metcalfe's law, it says the utility of any network increases by the square of the number of users. And there'll be people who say that will never work. I'm old enough to remember when email was coming in, And I sat with business people who said, the business letter will never be replaced. There'll be a role for email, but you'll always want to have the paper and the embossed letterhead and the ability to handwrite a message. They were wrong. It's completely gone. And so much business travel and pointless, stupid commuting can be replaced. Is that a hellish Orwellian vision? What, that you don't leave your children in the morning and travel miles in anonymous underground tubes? No, we're kind of in hell now. In Africa, they say it takes the village to raise the child, and I think there's the most enormous potential for broadband video communication to relieve us of this tedious burden of travel. It's going to cost a bit to get fiber optic cables into people's homes, but is there any money to pay for that? Well, yes. I have the figures from America. In the United States, Americans spend $250 billion a year on business travel, $850 billion a year moving themselves around. Now, because airlines and car companies are not typically very profitable, we don't really notice that money. We look at the profits, but it's huge. Okay, so there is the money to pay for that. Now, is it possible to get a fiber optic cable into our homes? We've got gas pipes containing explosive gas. We've got electricity that will kill you if you cut through the cable. We've got water that can flood the house. We've got sewer pipes that are full of bacteria that can kill you. A little fiber optic cable can be put into every home in the industrialized world. This will create huge numbers of jobs. It will boost our economies. It will stop us sending hundreds of billions to Saudi Arabia, to Iran, to Russia, to Venezuela. We've got the money, we've got the unemployed people who need the work, and my final comment will be that this infrastructure, this broadband infrastructure, will permit us to separate economic growth from growth in consumption of raw materials. The nirvana, dematerialized growth, communications, education, entertainment can grow without limit. We're seeing that with the replacement of newspapers by electronic documentation. Just consider that the mind, this is the century of the mind, the growth of the mind can grow without limit. We can give ourselves the infrastructure to grow our economies without increasing our consumption of physical goods. And all that's required is for our regulators, our governments, and our societies to focus. Thank you.